Well, wow, what quite the panel. Thank you to Scott and all the panelists and guests on that topic. I feel like that's a great one to, once we've shared these recordings, to really share with students. There's so much to learn and there's so much more coming at us every day in this field. I wanted to do a little quick update and invite my former professor and former MEIEA president and current head of educational partnerships at the MLC. And of course, she's also busy editing the Music Business Handbook. Sirona Elton does not need much of an introduction. Sirona, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm great. And by the way, congrats on another amazing summit. You and the whole team is rocking it, and I know how exhausted you are. It's really easy to watch others do all the work, but thank you for doing such an amazing job for all of us. We really appreciate it, and you're rocking it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. And thanks for the support from the MLC. I thought, you have you're involved in so many different things in the industry, but I thought maybe we can start off by talking about your role at the MLC. It's such a young organization, when it's about 1 year and 5 months officially, and just give us a little bit of updates. What has been happening the last year or so? And you guys started right in the middle of COVID.
Yeah. It's a crazy thing, starting a company where, it's funny, other companies are like, yeah, we had to pivot to be fully remote. And we're like, we were always fully remote. We started fully remote, which is kind of crazy. So yeah, I'd love to talk about a couple of things with respect to the MLC. I can just talk about what's been happening there in general, and then talk a little more specifically about, things that pertain to educators, and just give you a little update on that. So let's start more broadly for a minute, right? There's actually a great report that educators might find interesting. Our members do. It's an annual report that sort of looked back at 2021 to talk about, what actually happened during that year. And I'm going to share just one particular image from it, and then you can share in the chat. We'll put in a link to where you can find this on the website, because there's a lot of great information in it. I just wanted to show one particular page. So sharing this screen, and you'll let me know if somehow you can't quite see it right or if it looks crazy. What I like about this is it gives you a bit of a timeline. It's probably really small on people's screens, so you can check it out later. But it gives you a timeline of how we got to where we are, which, I think really just shows, it illustrates just how much has been done in a short time period. So kind of starts back when you have the MMA passed, right through to really when January 2020, the MLC began building its team. I'm really grateful. I was one of the early people in March 2020, one of the last times that I got to speak to the MEIEA family. So, from January onward, we started building out the team, hired the CEO, started building out all of the different departments within the company, and starting to host webinars about what it is that we do, because it's crazy complicated, unfortunately. In terms of outward-facing capabilities, in December 2020, we launched our publicly available database, we think it's a great thing. It's also mandated by law that we have a publicly available database. So that really launched in December 2020, had our first MLC week in October of 2020, began inviting members to sign up on our website. And that started in September 2020. Some other initiatives there around data, going through, getting us into... Sorry, that's July going backwards, December. Going into January 2021, at that point, we really started administering this new blanket license. Its availability date was January 1st, 2021. That's how new this is. So we started administering in January, started actually receiving royalties related to that new blanket license in February of 2021. We also received this large thing called the Historical Unmatched set of money and data, or part 1 of 2 related to that, also happened in February of 2021. In April, we issued our first royalty statements in April 2021. Those pertain to the January 2021 activity. So they were the first royalty statements issued under this new blanket license. Very proud they were issued on time, paid out more than $24 million in royalties in that first distribution, and have continued to pay out monthly on time ever since then. And that's quite a feat. We got the second batch of data related to historical unmatched in June of 2021. October, we launched a new matching tool for members where they can go in and find recordings of their works and say, hey, that's a recording that goes with my musical work, so that we can match those and pay them. December, we added another tool to the toolbox for our members in terms of saying, hey, I need to claim a portion of that work that I control or administer. And then ultimately, we finished 2021 having distributed more than $280 million in that first year of distribution. So I would encourage folks, take a look at this annual report, right? There's a lot of stuff in it, that explains how we run, how our process works, some great pictures of our office in Nashville. So that is available on the website. It's, you'll share the link. It's under our governance page at the bottom. There's that information. So that's a quick snapshot of what have we been doing, including hundreds of webinars that have spoken to thousands of people about what we do. And we're starting now to get out in person at live events. I know some folks here were at Music Biz last week. I saw you. It was great to see you. I'm still trying to get my voice back after all those late nights of partying. And you might have seen we had a table, an information table there. We did some tabling at South by Southwest as well. So we're now out there in person as well as things get back to normal. So that's a highlight of the MLC, broadly speaking. From an educational perspective, I'll give you an update on the tools. So we still have our educator toolkit. Version 2 is the one that's out there. Many of you probably have that already. I'll be working on version 3 this summer. It's not going to change drastically. Really, just the video and the slides will be updated to reflect some newer things. And the more we explain it, the better we get at figuring out how to explain it. So the toolkit will be updated. That's available for any educator for free. We also launched, since we last spoke, our Educator Ambassador program. And so what this program involves is any educator can apply to be designated as an Educator Ambassador. It is free and it does not pay. So you don't pay, we don't pay. It's a designation. And the bar is pretty low in terms of what you're obligated to do. The obligation is just to talk about the MLC twice a year on your campus. That includes in your classes. So if you have a class where you're already covering it, well, that's super easy. You've already got that. But one of the things that I thought made it kind of attractive also to faculty, especially those on a tenure track who like to put stuff on that CV, right? You actually have to pass a test. It's not a hard test, but you watch a video, you make sure you know how to explain this stuff, and then you pass a little video test so that you can tell the people who are looking at this on your CV, you didn't just sign up. You had to do something to be given this designation. So that's part of why we did that. You also be amazed how many industry professionals who are really experienced and educators out there who teach about copyright don't necessarily know the nuances about what the MLC is and what it does. And so, I think it's a good thing to have to be able to make sure you can speak from a position of knowledge. So that's out there. You can also find a link to that to apply at any point in time. I know you're going to put in the chat a link to this page. We have one page on the website for educators. It's got the toolkit. It's got the Educator Ambassador program. And you can also see a list of who the existing ambassadors are. Hi to those of you out there. I know some of you are watching now. And soon, in June sometime, we're going to launch our Student Ambassador program, which I'll be sending information out about to everybody who's gotten a toolkit and our Educator Ambassadors. It's not paid. And its students will also sort of sign up, pass a simple assessment, and then their obligation really is to be posting about what we're doing, reposting social media posts, posting their own social media posts and tagging us, with their friends who are songwriters that they helped educate about it. So it's really about getting the word of mouth out. We are starting to take interns. This is the first time this summer. We're going to have a handful of interns. We're starting small. They do have to be in person in Nashville, and we did get the word out to our educator ambassadors to start with for that, and they're in the process of selecting them now, but we will be then equipped to take interns in the future. And we know we're often hiring for entry-level jobs. There's a page on our website where they're posted, and we kind of, especially like data matching temps, things like that. There's a lot of jobs there. Not a lot, but there's a regular, set of jobs that you find there that are really good for entry-level folks just coming out of school. So that's my MLC update.
Boy.
Do you have any questions for me?
I was just curious. I mean, last week was big news with the Copyright Royalty Board approving the 33% raise in royalties. And I was just curious, what the buzz is over at the MLC and what, maybe just some insight on that. That must have been it's great for our songwriters. It's a small step on the way. So.
Yeah. So, all right. So the statutory rates are complicated. So let me try and explain this for a minute, right? So whenever the Copyright Royalty Board, the CRB, when they make a decision with respect to the statutory rates for mechanicals, because they actually set statutory rates also that apply to like webcasting, other things. When they set a statutory rate with respect to mechanicals, because they set different rates that apply to different time periods, we refer to those decisions with like little shorthand names. And in this case, we call them phono records. So like there's a phono records 1 opinion, a phono records 2 opinion, phono records 3 opinion, phono records 4. Okay. So phono records 3 opinion is the one that went up on appeal. And then was sent back to the CRB by the appellate court, and it's still being decided. We don't have final Phono Records 3 CRB rates yet, okay? So that's still an outstanding question. But while we're figuring that out, the Phono Records 4 decision process has started, right? So normally, you don't kind of have one still lingering out there. So Phono Records 3 is still not done, but Phono Records 4 has now started. And as part of Phono Records 4, the industry, record side, publisher side, have reached an agreement that they've, submitted to the Copyright Royalty Board for them to adopt it with respect to physical products and downloads only. That does not apply to streaming. I could imagine how whatever the decision in Phono Records 3 is with respect to streaming will have influence over the Phono Records 4 decision with respect to streaming. I don't have any insider information on that. I'm just guessing. It's a bit of common sense on that one. But so the Phono Records 4 rate specifically for downloads and physical products is what this new, agreement is about. And so, it's a great news for songwriters and publishers. That's wonderful. The MLC is not involved in these rate proceedings. We don't advocate for or against any rate. We're not allowed to by law. If the Copyright Royalty Board wants some kind of data from us, we'll give whatever data is asked. But we actually are not a participant on either side, for or against, or anything to do with the actual rate being set. So we're more of an observer in that way. And it's, look, when there is litigation about a rate that takes a lot of time, a lot of money gets spent. Generally, it's the lawyers who come out ahead with all that money being spent, right? And so whenever some of that money can be not spent on litigation and instead there's an agreement reached, that's generally a good thing. So.
Absolutely. And this is why we need the educator toolkit too, because there's just so much to keep track of. And by the time you go through and teach the students, there's always some change going on in our industry. And in one of the panels yesterday, somebody mentioned that, when textbooks are becoming harder to get by because there's so many current textbooks, there's so many changes going on in the industry that by the time something is out, maybe there's another change. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the Music Business Handbook, a staple in many classrooms, and you are the current editor, and you completely edited that, the latest edition. Can you just give us a quick, brief update on that?
Absolutely. So, and this may not have, hit the street out there. I could change my virtual background now to be my university background. Like, here we go. Let me become a professor again. Right. So the book that many of you use in your Introduction to Music Industry courses, the Music Business Handbook and Career Guide by David Baskerville and Tim Baskerville. So right now it's in the 12th edition. The 13th edition is going to have an additional author added to it, not just an editor, but an author. And so the 13th edition will be by David Baskerville, Tim Baskerville, and Serona Elton. And then the plan is the 14th edition would just have me as the author. And so Tim is retiring, and he approached me, and we came together, and I'm so honored to be sort of picking up this kind of iconic book that so many people in the industry have used in their education. I used it when I was a grad student back in the early 90s, to then be taking that on and keeping its level of respect and relevance in the industry. It's a huge honor. So a lot of work went into it. Whenever you bring somebody new on board, they kind of want to get in there and poke around, and so a lot of revisions made. The 13th edition will be available for adoption for January, right? So if your spring 2023 courses and later would be when you could adopt the 13th edition. It will come out sometime like in September. So I wish it was faster than that, right? Because I kind of handed it off to the publisher January 3rd of this year, and then collapsed from exhaustion. But it was wonderful. Everyone after that's like, "What are you going to do now?" I'm like, "Not write for a while." That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to not write. But so it was a bit crazy that way. But so there's a lot of changes in the book, a lot of revisions. We've restructured some things, moved some things around so that it might, for those of you who use that as your primary source for an entire semester, it lines up potentially a little bit more from a substantive perspective with the 14-week kind of model. The chapters are a bit more balanced in terms of length, so that it's easier to kind of assign 1 or 2 chapters a week without there being a huge amount of fluctuation. There's learning outcomes now at the beginning of each chapter. So a lot of things, I think you'll see quite a lot of updates made to it. And I was thinking exactly what you're saying when I heard that yesterday. It's really difficult to keep a book up to date, because think about it. If I handed it to the publisher January 3rd, 2022, and the first time it's going to be in students' hands really is going to be January 2023, a lot of things change during that time period, right? And so I'm certainly going to be working with the publisher to figure out, is there some way I could, kind of through, because it has a resource website, give faculty some sort of, note this thing in this chapter here, there's an update to it, right? Just a paragraph here or there, so that when they're teaching it, they can go, that thing in there, now it's changed a little. But it's difficult with books. It is difficult with books. But I do think, especially for an introductory course, there is still a lot of value in sort of a textbook format, in that it lays out a topic in a way that builds knowledge on top of it, with, key terminology and things like that you just don't get if you compile a bunch of articles off the internet, right? So we need all of it in our education, textbooks, journal articles, current articles on the internet, all that kind of stuff to put together a set of materials for our students. But it's a big honor. And I do need to give a couple of shout outs, right? So a number of other educators helped me with particular chapters, did, a lot of heavy lifting there. So shout out to you, Armin, Armin Kelly Gardner, Dan Keene. Those were my main educator helpers. There was a few other folks as well involved that didn't come from the academic world. So shout out to you guys also.
Yeah, we're excited about this. I have a couple of very quick questions that relate back a little bit to the MLC. And of course, we have a minute. Problem. So I don't know. It's one of those
okay.
No,
if
it's
not,
fine.
They can always drop me an email.
Yes, somebody was asking about insights on potential for mechanical rate increase on streaming.
I have no insights at all.
No insights. How come guys in the US don't demand mechanicals from social media? Is that a legal thing?
Well, so mechanical is a very specific use. And although socials is usually a video sync use, and so that's just different. It's a different kind of licensing. And social use of music does require licenses and does pay royalties, just not a mechanical.
Absolutely. Great. So Sharona, maybe we can catch up again in the, I say early fall when it's always chaos, but we'd love to get you back on. Maybe we can do a MEIEA Meets, talk a little bit about the MLC. We can talk a little about the book or any other educational tips and ideas, because it's always nice to be on Zoom together with the whole group and just share some ideas as the new school year is starting after summer. So
I'm always happy to do anything and everything, MEIEA. I'm always in. So
well, and I look forward to seeing you in Las Vegas at the very least next spring, right?
Yes, I'll be there. Can't wait. But anybody, I think we can't have virtual because what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So I don't know if people who are watching on Zoom should be allowed to know what happens in Vegas. Vegas has a whole set of rules we have to think about, Armin.
That is very true. And we will definitely do it in person only. The online thing is great, but it's so much work. I like either or. I'm not big on hybrid. It just gets too messy. So
it's messy.
So we'll see you in Vegas. Thank you so much, Sharona. Have a great day. And we're going to get ready for the next panel. Thanks for joining us.
All right. Thanks. Thank you. Bye, everybody. Bye.